The stars above the alien world burned like cold fire, sharp and distant. The ground was dry, cracked, and silent. A group of alien soldiers moved across the wasteland, their armor shining under the pale light. They marched with pride, their voices loud, their laughter cruel. They were hunters, or so they believed. To them, humans were weak creatures, strange animals from a distant world. Humans were supposed to be soft, fragile, easy to break. That is what their leaders had told them. That is what they had believed. But tonight, they made their first mistake. Among the captured group of humans stood one man. He was tall, but not the largest. He was quiet, but not invisible. He did not beg, he did not cry, and he did not resist when they chained his hands. He only watched. His eyes were calm, too calm, like still water before a storm. The aliens mocked him. "Look at this one soldier hissed. "He does not speak. Maybe he is broken already." Another laughed. No fight left in him. A tame animal. But their laughter was hollow, for something about him felt different. The air around him was heavy. The silence he carried pressed on their nerves. He did not act like prey. He acted like something waiting. The leader of the squad stepped closer. He struck the man across the face with the back of his clawed hand. The sound echoed in the night. The human did not flinch. Blood ran from his lip, but his eyes never moved away from the alien's face. That stare unsettled them. It was not anger, not fear. It was worse. It was the look of a predator studying prey. The aliens told themselves they were in control. They told themselves this was just another hunt. Yet in the back of their minds, unease began to grow. The human remained silent. His breathing was slow, steady. His shoulders were relaxed, almost too relaxed for a man in chains. One of the younger soldiers leaned closer and whispered to his comrade. "Why does he look at us like that? Like he knows something we don't," the comrade spat. "He's nothing, just flesh. Tomorrow he will be food for the beasts." But his words shook, betraying fear he refused to admit. The night grew colder. The wind carried dust across the camp. The aliens celebrated around the fire, boasting of their victory, throwing scraps of food, sharpening their weapons. They laughed at their prisoners, poked them, cursed them, but none of that laughter touched the silent man. He sat alone, his head slightly lowered, his shadow stretching long in the firelight. One alien, drunk with pride, threw a metal cup at him. It struck his chest and rolled into the dust. The man looked up slowly. Just for a second, his eyes met the alien's. Cold, empty, dangerous. The alien froze. His breath caught in his throat. He had seen many predators in his life, creatures with claws, beasts with fangs, but never eyes like these. This was something else. Something older. Something patient. The alien broke eye contact and laughed nervously. But the feeling stayed. The air around the campfire grew tighter, harder to breathe. The leader shouted to his squad, "Remember this night! We are masters of the hunt! These humans are nothing!" His voice was strong, but it carried a crack of doubt. The prisoners shifted in fear, but the silent man remained still. He was waiting. Not for rescue, not for mercy. He was waiting for the moment. The aliens did not see it yet, but the hunt had already changed. The roles had shifted. In their arrogance, they had poked something far beyond their understanding. They had crossed a line without knowing it, for now the human sat chained, his body calm, his head lowered. But in his eyes burned the cold fire of something unstoppable. Tomorrow they would learn the truth. Humans were not prey. Humans were predators. And when predators are crossed, payback always comes. The night stretched on. The aliens laughed louder, hiding their unease. But the man said nothing. He only listened. He only watched. And deep inside, he counted the beats of his heart, steady as a drum, each one closer to the moment he would rise. This was their first mistake. Their last mistake was yet to come. The campfire burned low, crackling in the cold night. Most of the aliens sat around it, their laughter slowly dying as exhaustion crept in. The prisoners lay in silence, some asleep, some whispering prayers. But one man remained awake, chained to a heavy stone, watching. Always watching, the silent human's eyes followed every movement. He did not blink often, and when he did, it was slow, deliberate. The younger alien soldiers began to notice. Why does he stare like that? one muttered, glancing over his shoulder. It feels wrong. His companion snorted, trying to sound brave. He's just broken. His spirit is gone. But deep down, he felt the same unease. That human's gaze was not empty. It was sharp, focused, like a predator waiting in the grass. The leader of the squad barked a laugh. "Do not fear the eyes of cattle. They mean nothing." He raised his cup, pouring glowing liquid down his throat. But even he avoided the human's stare for too long. The human sat perfectly still, his muscles relaxed, his breath steady. He did not fight the chains. He did not cry for help. Instead, he studied every alien step, every weapon, every careless laugh. His silence was not weakness. It was calculation. The younger soldier shifted again. His claws tapped nervously against his armor. Finally, he stood and walked toward the chained man. "Why do you stare, human? Do you think yourself dangerous?" His voice cracked at the last word. The human lifted his head slowly. His eyes caught the firelight, reflecting it back in a cold glimmer. He said nothing, but that silence carried weight. It pressed against the alien's chest, heavier than any words. The soldier forced a laugh and spat at the ground. "See? Nothing. He is no threat." He turned back quickly, almost too quickly, his shoulders tense. The others laughed to hide their nerves, but none of them wanted to meet those eyes again. Hours passed. The fire dimmed to glowing embers. A wind swept across the wasteland, carrying dust and whispers. The prisoners shifted uneasily in their sleep. The human remained awake. His eyes tracked the guards who patrolled the edge of the camp. He counted their steps, measured their distance, studied their weapons. To him, every detail mattered. One of the aliens muttered in frustration, "He does not rest. He does not close his eyes. What kind of creature does not sleep?" "Enough!" the leader snapped. "You are letting fear poison your mind. He is just a man. Tomorrow he will bleed like the rest." But his words rang hollow. Even he could not ignore the truth. The man's stillness was unnatural. His silence was sharp, cutting through the night. When the wind rose again, the fire sputtered. Shadows stretched across the camp, long and twisted. For a moment, the human's shadow seemed larger than his body, like a beast crouching in the dark. One soldier swore under his breath and turned his back to the human. "I do not like this," he whispered. Another hissed back, "Then do not look at him." Pretend he is not there, but they could not. None of them could ignore the weight of those eyes. The silent man shifted only once during the long night. He lifted his head higher and rolled his shoulders, the chains rattling softly. That sound, small as it was, made every alien tense. Their claws gripped their weapons tighter, though there was no attack. The leader growled in annoyance. "You are cowards. He is nothing." Yet even as he spoke, his gaze avoided the human. He looked everywhere else, the fire, the dust, the stars, but not into those eyes. When dawn began to break, the sky turned pale blue, and the first light touched the camp. The human finally moved again. Slowly, he closed his eyes for the first time. His chest rose, then fell in a deep, steady breath. The aliens exhaled with relief. Some laughed nervously, pretending the night had not rattled them. "See, he sleeps. Just a man after all." But the truth was far from comforting, because even in rest, his body was calm, controlled, like a predator saving strength for the hunt. The younger soldier muttered again, almost to himself. "His eyes, they do not belong to prey." No one answered. No one wanted to. The human had spoken no words, made no threats, but the fear had already spread. The hunters were beginning to feel like prey, and soon they would learn the meaning of those eyes, the eyes of a predator. The sun climbed higher, burning white against the endless sky. Heat pressed down on the alien camp, heavy and sharp. Dust rose with every step, coating armor, weapons, and skin. The aliens marched their prisoners forward. Chains clinked and dragged along the ground. The humans stumbled, thirsty and weak. Some cried out. Some begged, but one man stayed silent. He walked with steady steps, his head lowered just enough to hide his eyes. The chains cut his wrists, but he did not flinch. His breathing was even, calm, almost patient. The squad leader glanced back at him. Something in that calmness burned in his chest like a warning, but pride would not let him admit it. He spat on the ground and barked at his soldiers. "Keep moving! Tonight we feed the beasts!" The younger soldiers laughed, but their voices were thin. They still remembered the eyes that had haunted them through the night. By midday, they reached a canyon where jagged rocks rose like teeth from the earth. Shadows stretched across the ground, sharp and broken. The aliens shoved their prisoners into the shade, letting them collapse against the stone. The silent human sat against the canyon wall. His eyes scanned the cliffs, the rocks, the dust. Every corner, every shape, every opening. He was memorizing the land. One soldier kicked dirt at him. "Look at the little beast." "Still staring, still silent," another sneered. "Maybe he is too stupid to fear," the leader growled. "He is nothing. Watch." He stepped forward, grabbed a young human prisoner by the hair, and dragged him into the open. The boy screamed, clawing at the chains, but the aliens laughed. The silent man lifted his head. His eyes locked on the leader. No words, no movement, just that stare. The boy cried as the alien raised his weapon. The blade caught the sunlight, flashing bright, and in that moment, the man's calm changed. His breathing slowed, his muscles tightened, his shoulders rolled ever so slightly. The air around him felt heavier. The leader struck the boy across the face, laughing. The boy collapsed, bleeding into the dust. The soldiers cheered, but their cheer did not last. Because the silent man had shifted forward, his chains grinding against the rock. It was only a small move, but it carried weight. His body leaned toward the boy, toward the leader like a wolf ready to spring. The soldiers froze. The laughter died. Even the leader's grin faltered. For a breath, the canyon was silent. The man did not attack. Not yet. He leaned back slowly, resting against the wall again. His eyes never left the leader's. The message was clear. Not now. Not yet. But soon, the younger soldiers whispered to each other. "He waits for something." Another hissed back. "He is planning." "You can see it!" The leader roared in anger, trying to break the tension. He raised his weapon again and cut the boy's arm, leaving a shallow wound. The boy screamed. The aliens laughed louder, forcing the sound into the canyon, but the silent man was not laughing. His eyes darkened, his jaw clenched. His chains rattled as his fists tightened. One soldier muttered, "Why does he not speak? Why does he not fight? It is like he is waiting for us to make the wrong move." And that was the truth. The human was waiting. Every insult, every strike, every drop of blood spilled was another stone laid in a trap they were too blind to see. When the sun dipped low again, shadows covered the canyon. The aliens set their camp near the rocks, confident in their numbers, confident in their weapons. The prisoners huddled together, weak and broken. But the silent man sat apart, his back straight, his eyes glowing faint in the dying light. The younger soldier whispered again, his voice shaking, "I think we already made the wrong move." And in the darkness of the canyon, the human's lips curved just slightly. Too small to be called a smile, but sharp enough to cut. The trap was already set. The only thing left was to spring it. The canyon night was deep and heavy. The fire in the alien camp crackled, throwing long shadows across the jagged rocks. The prisoners lay chained, too weak to move, too broken to hope. Only one man sat upright, silent as always, his eyes reflecting the flames. The alien soldiers grew restless. Some drank, some sharpened their blades, others paced. But no matter what they did, their eyes kept drifting back to him. The quiet one, the one who never spoke, never begged, never looked afraid. The squad leader sneered at his men. "You fear shadows." "He is nothing. Watch. I will prove it." He strode over and kicked dust into the human's face. The man didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the leader's. Calm, patient, dangerous. The leader snarled and raised his weapon. "See, he doesn't even resist." He pressed the blade against the man's shoulder, dragging it slowly until blood marked the skin. The soldiers laughed, forcing courage into their voices. But then it happened. The human moved, not with a scream, not with rage, but with sudden, terrifying speed. His body surged forward, chains snapping tight. His hands, bound together, slammed into the leader's wrist. There was a sharp crack. The alien howled, his weapon clattering into the dust. The camp froze. The laughter died instantly. Before they could react, the man twisted the broken chain around his fists and struck again. The leader fell backward, gasping, his arm bent at a sick angle. The soldiers roared in shock. Some reached for their weapons, but they hesitated. They had never seen prey move like this. The human's silence made it worse. He did not shout, did not curse. His face was cold, his eyes colder. One young soldier rushed forward, blade raised. The human ducked low, the chain flashing in the firelight. It snapped across the alien's throat. A choking sound filled the night, and the soldier collapsed, gasping for air. Panic spread. "He's loose! Kill him!" But the man was already moving. His chains rattled like iron claws, his body flowing with precise, brutal motion. He struck another soldier in the chest, ribs cracking under the force. The alien dropped, screaming. The prisoners stared in disbelief. They had thought themselves doomed, but now they watched as one of their own became something else. Something more than human. The leader crawled backward, clutching his broken arm, his eyes wide with fear. He's not supposed to be like this," he shouted, but the human did not answer. His silence was worse than words. His eyes never left the leader. The remaining soldiers circled him, trying to trap him. "He cannot fight us all," one shouted, more to himself than anyone else. The human stood tall, chains dripping blood, his chest rising and falling in slow, steady breaths. He tilted his head slightly, like a predator choosing its next kill. Then he moved again. He lunged at the nearest alien, wrapping the chain around its weapon arm and yanking hard. The soldier screamed as bones snapped. The human slammed him into the canyon wall with brutal force. The body slid down, lifeless. The fire crackled louder, sparks flying into the air. Shadows danced wildly across the canyon walls. The aliens stumbled back, their courage breaking. For the first time, they realized the truth. This was no prey. This was no tame animal. This was a predator. The younger soldier who had mocked him the night before dropped his blade, his hands shaking. He's hunting us." The others glared at him, but the truth was written in their faces. Their fear was stronger than their weapons. The human turned slowly, scanning the camp. His eyes locked on each soldier in turn, as if counting them, as if marking them. None of them could hold his gaze. The leader, sweating and pale, crawled further away. His voice cracked. "Kill him now!" But no one moved. No one dared. The silence stretched, broken only by the crackle of fire and the slow, steady breath of the man they had chained. The first strike was done, and with it, the balance had shifted. The hunters had become the hunted. The canyon was no longer filled with laughter. No songs, no boasting, no cruel jokes at the prisoners' expense. Now there was only fear. The fire burned low, its light flickering against the walls. Every shadow stretched like claws across the ground. The air felt heavier, as if the canyon itself was holding its breath. The aliens huddled together, whispering. Their weapons shook in their hands. Their leader sat against a rock, his broken arm bound in cloth, his face pale. He glared at his men, but his voice was weak. "Find him!" he hissed. "End this before he kills us all." But none of them wanted to move. The human was gone from where he had fought. He had slipped into the darkness, leaving only broken bodies and blood behind. The silence of his absence was worse than his attack. One soldier crept forward, his eyes darting left and right. His claws trembled as he raised his weapon. He cannot vanish. He is still chained, but deep down, they all knew the truth. Chains were no longer his prison. They were his weapon. A sound echoed in the darkness, metal scraping against stone. The soldiers spun, weapons raised, but the firelight showed nothing. Just shadows. Just emptiness. "He's toying with us," one whispered, sweat dripping down his brow. The younger soldier swallowed hard. "He's hunting us," another soldier growled, forcing courage into his voice. "No, we are hunters. He is one man. One man cannot—" A scream cut him off. The group spun around. At the edge of the camp, one of their comrades lay twitching, his throat crushed, his weapon lying in the dirt. The human was gone again, like a shadow melting into the canyon. Panic exploded. Some soldiers fired blindly into the rocks, their weapons flashing in the night. Sparks and echoes filled the canyon. Dust rose into the air. But when the smoke cleared, there was nothing, no target, only silence. "He's everywhere," someone gasped. "He sees us, but we cannot see him." The leader tried to stand, clutching his broken arm. His voice shook. "He is only one man. You shame yourselves with this fear." But even he could not stop his eyes from darting to the shadows. He remembered the way the human had looked at him, silent, cold, merciless. That stare still burned into his mind. Another sound. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Behind them. The soldiers spun again, blades raised. But there was nothing there. Just the sound of chains rattling carried by the wind. One soldier dropped to his knees. This place is a cage. "And we are the prey," the leader snarled, his pride cracking. "Enough! Hold the line!" "He cannot." Chains whipped out of the dark, wrapping around a soldier's leg. He screamed as he was yanked into the shadows. His cries echoed, then stopped suddenly, leaving only silence. The others stumbled back, terror flooding their veins. The young soldier whispered again, his voice trembling. "He is not human. No human can move like this." But the prisoners, weak, broken, chained, watched with new eyes. They did not see a monster. They saw hope. A weapon born from their suffering. A man who refused to break. The fire sputtered lower, shadows growing deeper. Every soldier clutched his weapon tighter, their claws clicking against the metal. But they were no longer hunters. They were prey, cornered and shaking in the dark. From somewhere above on the rocks, a voice finally came. Cold, quiet, human. "You should have left us alone." Every alien froze. The silence after those words felt heavier than stone. Then the sound of chains again, rattling like a predator's growl. The fear spread deeper, crawling into every heart, breaking every ounce of courage. The human had struck once. Now he was hunting them all. The canyon was a graveyard of silence. The fire had almost burned out, leaving only glowing embers and drifting smoke. The smell of blood clung to the air, heavy and sharp. The alien soldiers stood in a broken circle, weapons shaking in their claws. Their eyes darted in every direction, searching for movement, searching for the shadow that hunted them. The leader tried to keep order, but fear clung to him as tightly as the cloth around his broken arm. His voice was weak, cracked. "Stay together. He cannot kill us if we—" Chains whistled through the air. One soldier jerked, his scream cut short as the links wrapped tight around his neck. A sharp pull, a sickening snap, and then silence again. The circle broke. Panic took them. Some ran toward the cliffs. Others fired blindly into the darkness, their shots striking only stone. Sparks flew, but the shadows swallowed everything. From above, a figure moved, swift, silent, unstoppable. The human dropped from the rocks, landing behind two soldiers. Before they could turn, the chain smashed into one skull. Bone cracked. The other swung his blade, but the man caught his arm, twisted, and broke it in one smooth motion. The scream echoed, rising into the night. But the man's silence was worse. He struck again, swift and cold, and the sound ended. The prisoners watched with wide eyes. Their fear had turned into awe. Every movement was precise, brutal, controlled. The human was not fighting like prey struggling for life. He was hunting like a predator taking what was owed. The younger soldier stumbled backward, his weapon falling from his claws. His voice trembled. This is not a man. This is death." The leader's face twisted with rage and fear. "Cowards! Fight him!" But his own feet betrayed him, shuffling back against the canyon wall. The human turned slowly, his eyes glowing faint in the dim firelight. He was drenched in blood, his chest rising and falling with steady breaths. His chains dragged along the stone, each rattle like the growl of a beast. One soldier screamed and charged. Too fast, too desperate. The man sidestepped, the chain flashing like a whip. It struck the alien's throat, tearing flesh. The body collapsed, twitching in the dust. The rest froze. No one else moved. Their courage was gone, stripped bare by the silence, the precision, the inevitability. The human's steps echoed as he advanced, slow and heavy. Each step pressed against their hearts, crushing what little bravery remained. The younger soldier fell to his knees, shaking. Please, please, no. The man's eyes met his. For a moment, time froze. Then the human turned away. He was not here for mercy, but neither was he here for sport. His hunt was focused. He wanted the leader. The alien commander scrambled back, his good arm reaching for his weapon. His voice cracked, desperate. Stay back. I am your master. Do you hear me? Your master! The human didn't answer. He never had. With one sharp pull, he tightened the chain around his fists and stepped closer. The leader swung his blade, wild and clumsy. The man caught it with the chain, twisting it from his grip. The weapon clattered to the ground. The commander gasped, his eyes wide. Please, wait! The man struck once. The chain crushed into his chest, breaking bone, tearing breath from his lungs. The leader fell, choking, eyes wide with disbelief. The canyon fell silent. The last soldiers dropped their weapons and fled into the dark, their screams fading against the rocks. None looked back. None dared. The human stood over the broken leader, his chest rising slow, steady. His eyes were cold, empty of mercy. He did not speak. He simply turned away, his chains dragging behind him. The prisoners stared, unable to move, unable to speak. The hunt was over. The predator had claimed his payback. The dawn came slowly over the canyon, painting the rocks with pale light. Smoke from the dead fires drifted into the sky, thin and gray. The battle was over. The screams had ended. Only silence remained. The prisoners, still chained to the stone pillars, stared at the man who had saved them. Their eyes were wide with disbelief. They had seen soldiers fight before. They had seen death before. But what they had witnessed in the night was something different. It was not survival. It was judgment. The man stood with his back to them, his chains hanging loose at his sides. His chest rose and fell in steady rhythm, not with exhaustion but with control. His body was scarred, burned, and bloodied, but he stood tall, unbroken. One of the prisoners whispered, "He fought like an army." Another shook his head. No, not an army. Something worse. The younger soldier, the one who had begged for mercy, crouched behind a boulder, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. He had seen many battles, but never this. His hands trembled, his weapon forgotten in the dirt. The words slipped from his lips without thought. Humans are not prey. They are hunters. The canyon seemed to agree. Every broken body of his comrades was a warning carved into the stone. The man finally turned. His eyes swept across the prisoners, then toward the soldier who still lived. He did not raise his chains. He did not step closer. He only watched. The soldier swallowed hard and lowered his head. He could not meet those eyes. No alien warrior could. The man walked to the prisoners. With one sharp pull, he broke the chains binding them to the pillars. His strength seemed endless, his silence heavier than any words. One by one, the captives were freed. A woman, her face marked with dust and tears, spoke carefully, her voice shaking. You saved us." The man didn't answer. He only nodded once, as if to say it was done, and turned away. The prisoners followed him with their eyes as he walked toward the edge of the canyon. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of finality. He did not look back. He did not need to. Behind him, whispers rose among the freed captives. "What is he?" "A monster." "No, not a monster. A protector." The younger soldier finally spoke again, louder this time, though his voice shook. "You think you can cage a human. You think you can break him. But once you cross that line, you never come back. He will hunt you. He will never stop." The words spread among them, like fire through dry grass. A legend had been born in blood and silence. The human reached the edge of the canyon. The rising sun cast his figure in gold and shadow. The chains rattled with each step, their sound a warning to any who might come after. He paused only once, staring at the horizon. His jaw clenched. His body tensed. He was not finished. The fight here was only a small piece of something larger. The predators who had taken him, who had dared to touch his people, he would not forget. He would not forgive. The payback had only begun. Without a word, he climbed the rocky path and disappeared beyond the ridge. The survivors stood in silence, watching until he was gone. None of them spoke again for a long time. None of them dared. At last, one prisoner broke the silence with a whisper, half in awe, half in fear. They crossed the line with a human predator, and now the galaxy will pay the price. News of the Canyon massacre spread faster than fire. Survivors carried the story, their voices trembling, their eyes wide with memories they could not erase. Each time they told it, the story grew sharper, darker. They spoke of a human who fought without fear, a man who broke chains as if they were thread, a predator who hunted predators. In the outer colonies, soldiers whispered it by firelight. In alien war camps, officers silenced conversations when the name human was mentioned. Even smugglers and mercenaries, hardened killers who feared nothing, avoided the word. But the word still spread. One rumor became 10. 10 became 100. Soon every corner of the frontier knew the tale. If you cross the line with a human, there is no escape. The younger alien soldier who had survived the canyon stood before his commanders, his hands still shaking. His armor was scratched, his eyes sunken. He had lived through the hunt, but it had marked him forever. He was one man, the commander scoffed. "You exaggerate. Humans are weak." The soldier slammed his fist on the table, his voice breaking. "Weak? I saw him kill 10 of us with his bare hands. He used the chains we bound him with as weapons." He never spoke, never begged. "He hunted us like animals." Silence filled the chamber. The commanders shifted uncomfortably, but pride held their tongues. The soldier leaned forward, his voice almost a whisper. "You think humans are prey? They are not. They are the hunters, and we have made the mistake of waking one." Meanwhile, far from that chamber, the man himself walked alone through barren lands. His body carried scars, but his eyes carried something heavier. Purpose. He had no army, no flag, no empire. But he had something far more dangerous, resolve. Every step he took left behind fear. Every enemy who heard his chains rattling in the dark wondered if they would be next. The prisoners he had saved spoke of him with reverence. To them, he was no longer just a man. He was proof. Proof that humans could not be broken. Proof that strength did not come from numbers, but from will. In hidden taverns, smugglers called him the silent predator. On mining colonies, workers called him the chain breaker. And in alien war councils, they gave him the name they feared most, the human payback. The galaxy had seen many killers, many conquerors. But this was different. This was not about power or territory. This was personal. He did not fight for empires. He did not fight for wealth. He fought for vengeance, and vengeance spreads like a storm. As the days turned into weeks, more stories appeared. An outpost destroyed, its guards slain silently in the night. A convoy ambushed, its commanders found broken. No one ever saw the attacker, but always the survivors whispered the same thing. "The chains! We heard the chains." The man had become more than flesh and blood. He had become a warning, and warnings are harder to kill than armies. At the edge of a forgotten system, the human stood on a cliff, watching the stars burn bright above him. His face was calm, but his eyes were cold fire. Somewhere out there, his enemies still lived, still plotted. But they could never hide from him. Not forever. The wind tugged at the broken chain he carried, its links glinting in the starlight. He gripped it tighter, a symbol of what he had been and what he had become. The galaxy thought they had enslaved a man. Instead, they had awakened a legend, and legends do not die. They hunt,